One, two, three, four. We're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Axel Phillips here with the preview of the shortened pre-origin round for the NRL. And hopefully tonight you've got your comfortable seat, or if you're going to the club and you've got the big screen to watch the Bulldogs versus the Broncos, because this is going to be like a semi-final match. I really believe it's going to be a tough match and not for the faint-hearted. We'll have a look at the sides pretty much straight away, get into our anytime try scorer. My apologies for my awful tip last night. I didn't really get to hear the game. I need to wait for the extended highlights to come out because I missed about three-quarters of the game. Tiana Penatani didn't score, our main banker. Our second banker was Johnston. As I said, the little bit that I heard, they barely touched the ball. There was try scorers coming off the bench. It was a difficult opening match for Cronulla, and they end up losing by a penalty goal. Parramatta beat them 18-16, so it was very disappointing. And especially when I looked at the try scorers and saw Quincy Dodd. Well, we did have Quincy Dodd in the grand final last year, and she got us a 5-1 leg up, and we had her into Tiana Penatani, and we had two $1,000 tickets. They're only like $1.50 outlays, but I had like 3 or 4 legs running. Quincy Dodd, Tiana Penatani. I think we had Olivia Koenig, and the one that didn't go over for us was Tiana. So sorry, it was Tanya who ended up winning the lady or woman of the match. How can you say man of the match? But in any case, I'm not going down that political path. But so it was really, really difficult seeing Quincy Dodd's name in the book last night. I think she came up at 5-1, but it is what it is, and we need to get some. Only put a small amount down, but we need to win it back tonight. So let's get straight into it, guys. Bulldogs playing at the Accor Stadium. I'll just get this a little bit closer, get it a little bit clearer for our audio people. Let's have a look at the matchups. It's Connor Tracy up against Selwyn Cobbo. Well, a lot of the players are out for the Broncos and for Canterbury, so there's some interesting matchups here. So Cobbo up against Tracy. Tracy had an outstanding match. Those two amazing try-saving tackles, but it didn't stop Penrith from winning last week. So they're looking for a little bit of vengeance. And also, last time they met in April, Broncos towed up the Bulldogs. So they've got a lot to play for here, the Bulldogs. We're going to tip the Broncos, but wouldn't surprise me to see a bit of a vengeful playing there from Canterbury, and we're going to have a couple of the try scorers in there, but we're going to lead out with Broncos. I think it's going to be 1-12. There's a player I don't know. Looking at here, number 18's had to come in, and he's up against Tuala, but it's Deloise Hoida. Deloise Hoida. Be interesting to see how he goes. He's taking Shibasaki, who's got a late call into the Origin side, which is on Wednesday, and we should be having Scott Pearce-McLeod here. I'll be calling the game for you in any case if Scotty can't make it, but he promised me that he would make it. So let's keep our fingers crossed and make sure we get some confirmation by Monday or Tuesday at the very latest. It's going to be a very exciting game, the playoff for the trophy, the State of Origin trophy. But so there's this team, both teams have been good on you, mate. Give it a few more revs. Basically, that both teams are lacking the top echelon players, but there's still some very good players in there. Bailey Hayward up against Kobe Hetherington, Ricky against Preston, Kikau against Piakura, who's a monster. He destroyed one of New Zealand's top players, even though it wasn't really from the tackle, but he never got back up off the ground. Luke Metcalf was mainly because he twisted the way he got tackled. He twisted his knee and is out for the season. Reed Marnie up against Corey Pikes, or Pikes, however you want to pronounce it. Harry Hayes up against Xavier Willison. And looking at the other matchups, Burton against Mam, Montoya against Mariner, expecting a big game from Dean Mariner. Anari Tuwala against Huida. Sherry against Stags. That's a great matchup. They'll be at each other all match. Willison against Karapani and Tracy against the Cobbo, as we started out saying. Let's go straight to the anytime trial scores. The score last time they played, it was Broncos 42, smashed Bulldogs 18. That was the 24th of April this year, but it was up at Suncorp Stadium. $1.40, very skinny, the Bulldogs here. So they're the experts are tipping them to win. Brisbane 3-1. I think there's a little bit of value head to head there, honestly. Admittedly, they're 8 points behind them on the ladder. Broncos currently running fifth. There's that gap between first, second, third, and fourth. There's that gap where fourth starts, and they're 8 points behind the second placed Bulldogs, who they're meeting tonight. And let's go straight to the anytime try scorers. Opening up the market with the shortest prizes, Blake Wilson at $1.85, Montoya $1.90, Karapani $2.15. That's the best value you'll get for that, for the winger for the Broncos. There's no doubt about that. Dean Mariner, a little bit skinnier than what I originally thought he might have been. Jacob Preston went over last week in the losing side of the Bulldogs, 260. Selwyn Cobbo hasn't scored for some time, but he's been in and out of the side, 275. Tuwala, it looks like he scores every second match, so he's due to score tonight, but who knows. Matt Burton, $3.10. He's due to score tonight, Matt Burton. He could be one we could chuck in there as an entertainer. Brendan Piakura, $4.25. All the forwards are way out there. Toby Sexton at 5 has scored 2 matches ago. Josh Rogers, $5.50. He'll be playing from the bench. Samuel Hughes gets a chance to go over. He's 7-1. Xavier Willison hasn't gone over for quite a while. He's $8.50. Lipoi Hopoi is 9-1. Billy Walters 10s. There's really good value there. But let's try and find a banker. I've made a few notes here, and I'm actually taking a little bit of a punt. Last week we stood out Ezra Mann, and he let us down. He's set up 2 tries, but instead of going himself, he sent it to the winger, and I think one of those tries came in the form of Karapani. But anyway, we're switching from Ezra Mann, so jump on, people. Dean Mariner. We're going to open up with Dean Mariner as our banker. Then we're going to come across to, I'm not going to stand out Bronson Sherry, although I usually do. I'm making a change in my tip here. I'm going for Matt Burton. I think he's going to score a phenomenal try. Something's just jumping out of the page at me there. I've switched off Xavier Willison, but we're going to move that top selection down to third because he hasn't scored for some time and he's always inches away from a line, but I think he'll go over. So let's put him in for third because you're going to get 5-1 there. Remember, I'm trying to give you at least even money to 5-2, 3-1 to start your legs off. If you don't follow me, then you can put your own odds on favourites, but you're going to have 3 of them go across. For instance, if you tip 1 or 2 wingers, you're going to have $1.85 or $1.85 into $1.85, and you'd be lucky to get $2 back. You'd be lucky to get 5-2 back for that double. So anyway, here on Every Point's a Winner or EPAW, we will always go for the value for you. And we've been very, very lucky. Last night, we bombed out, but that is the first ladies match, so it didn't go as planned. We'll make that back in the playoffs, I'm sure, for the NRLW. Okay, so as I said, Matt Burton as the other banker, and then we're going to chuck in Willison, and then we're going to come back to Ezra Mam for our fourth leg. Ezra Mam for the Broncos. I really want to chuck in Jacob Preston and Bronson Sherry for the fifth leg. I'm taking both of them because they're both 250 and 260. So there you go. You could chuck in Karapani because you are getting value this week. He was long odds on last week when he scored his double, $1.75. You could also chuck in Montoya if you're a big Bulldogs fan. But I think this game, it could open up in the second half. I think it's going to be fairly tight early and then open up in the second half. Another one you could entertain would be Villami Kikau, who is most unlucky, and he's due to score this week. But anyway, you have to be a miracle guy to pick up any of these try scorers because they're all got the ability to score, but some haven't scored for some time. So let's leave that match behind us. It's only 1 hour and 52 minutes away, and go to tomorrow's matches. There's only 2, and in fact, there's only 5 for this round. It is the shortened round 18, which is our lucky number, 18 and 19. But Canberra versus St George down in Canberra, and there's many, many changes here. St George has come up at $4.10. That doesn't surprise me, even though they had a good win last week. And Canberra at $1.24, who is leading the competition. Let's have a look here and go to the ins and outs. That game starts at 5:30 tomorrow, so make sure you don't miss that if you are going to set up your anytime try scorers. I made a pledge from last week after we looked back at the post review of the games and what have you, and I'm either going to play St George or have them for half my money because I can't catch them. No matter what I do, whether I have Valentine Holmes, who's not playing, of course, but whether I have Little or Holmes, one of them will score, or if I have them both, none of them will score. And I can't catch the coach's son, Flanagan. He scores once every 5 or 6 games. I cannot catch them. So they're just not. I don't want to throw money and piss it up at the wall, excuse the French, but I don't want to waste money on this game. But if I was going to have a smaller bet or half the bet, I'd be leading with mainly tries to Canberra and maybe chuck in a bodgy for St George. But anyway, let's have a look at the team list and ins and outs. Chevy Stewart is in and Solo is back. In for St George is Blake Laurie, Halagahu, Molo, Sagranis, Sinoni Fino back on the wing, including Terrell Sloan is back in the. That's interesting. Hamish Stewart's out. Luciano Leilua, Nathan Lawson, Toby Couchman, and Valentine Holmes, of course, off to the Opera, which is on Wednesday in Sydney, the big state of origin. Josh Papali also got that late call into the Queensland side. So looking forward to that on Wednesday. But now for this match, let's have a look and go to the TAB. Won't worry too much about the matchups. As I said, I may not be playing this one, but I'll give you our selections here at EPAW in any case. Running 11th at St George and 1st Canberra. They met in round 27 of last year, and it was a tight one. It was 26 Canberra, 24 St George. Let's go straight to the anytime try scorer. Xavier Savage leads the very, very short odds-on market here at $1.65. Jed Stewart, that was a flukish try for him last week. $1.65. I wouldn't be taking those odds. It was just a flukish try. KO Weeks, 2.15. Pretty good value there. He scored last week as well. Terrell Sloan, 2.30. That's a bit skinny for mine, but he is known to be a prolific try scorer. Ethan Strange got a good collect for us last week at 2.30. That's a bit shorter than what I thought. Sasaki went over last week at 2.75. Clint Gutherson hasn't scored for 3 matches. Maybe it's his time at 290. Corey Allen went over last week, 350. Tom Starling is good odds here, and he's due to score at 375. Tom Starling. Not as cold tonight in Sydney, but it's going to get cold. It was a beautiful day, in fact, and we got a lot of washing done. Thank the Lord. Moses Sully at 425. Jaden Sewer let us down last week, 425. Songranis is 425. Joseph Tarpany, now he's due to score. He scores every second match, 550. We might entertain that anyway. Kyle Flanagan, I can't catch him. He's 6-1 again. Pacific Itoga, when he's off the bench, he does have a freakish way of scoring. 6-1. Owen Paddy hasn't gone over this year. 8-1. Trey Mooney hasn't gone over for a long time. Jack DeBell, and that was a flukish try. Jack didn't even know he scored it, I think, 2 games ago. They're all big odds, but I'm not taking St George with any confidence in any case. Here we're tipping Canberra 13 plus and 1-12, and we're not even giving St George a sniff. If they do cause an upset, I wish them all the best because there's so many better sides than them this year, and they'd have to turn their season around, and I just don't think they've got it in them. I really think there's something lacking in the middle of the pack there between the 6 and 7. It's so hot and cold. You can't be like that now. And now the divisions are starting to open up. You can't afford to win one, lose one, win one, lose one. You're going to drift back further, and those top 4 and eventually top 7 and 8 sides are just going to create a third division with a big crevasse separating second and third there. So I'm going to lead out of here, as crazy as this sounds, with Zach Hosking. He scored 3 matches away for us last time. 275. It is a bit skinny, but I'm going to chuck in as the second backer Matthew Timoko. As I said, this will be half my usual outlay for this game because St George is a curse for my anytime try scorers this year. Even in the trials, they're cursing me. So, pre-season, Matthew Timoko, 275. Zach Hosking, 275. Let's lead with those two. And they both need to score to make this worthwhile because we're only putting half our money down. We're going to chuck in, we'll chuck in Terrell Sloan because he's still 220 to score there on the wing for St George. Ethan Strange as our 4th leg, Ethan Strange at 230. And I can't leave this guy out. Tom Starling at 375 at that value is our 5th leg there. Let's not waste any more time on the St George match. I wish them all the best, but I think Canberra will tower them up. Okay, let's go to the North Queensland-Melbourne game, and we'll have a quick look. We know that both sides are going to have quite a few out here. Let's have a look at the ins and outs. So the second game on the Saturday there is 7:35. Looking at the team list and ins and outs, wow, Melbourne's got quite a few in. Fair dinkum. How many have they brought from the bench? Tiamata Lou Brown, Siulagi, Lazarus Vaialupu, Keegan Russell Smith, Kane Bradley, Josiah Papalu, Jonah Pezzett, Joe Chan, Gabriel Satrick, Kobe Williamson, Atavali Lasardi. Fair dinkum. There's been so many changes, hasn't there? Well, Nanai is out, of course, for North Queensland. Nanai, Robertson, Cotter and Dearden as expected. And out for Melbourne, Munster, Grant, Utokamano, Faialago, and that he did his hammy, didn't he, last week? Trent Liero and Xavier Coates. But also in for the Cowboys is Batungane, Kira, Kalipo, McLean, Bateman, Jackson Palu. I think he's reserved though. Jamal Shibasaki. So must be his younger brother. I don't know. Braden Burns. So there you go, in for the Cowboys. Let's have a look. Jackson Purdue let us down last week. Oh, we were inches away from getting it, and he passed the ball out to Talagi, who went in. So Scott Drinkwater, although we didn't have him in the three-legger that we needed. So we just missed out on that game last week. But let's talk about today. So it's Nick Meaney up against Zach Laybutt, Bradley up against Talangi. Tyron Wishart gets the start, not from the bench this time, against Jake Clifford. Interesting to see how the super sub comes and goes for the whole game here. Tyron Wishart. Tui Kamika, usually also a super sub, is up against Jordan McLean. Bit of experience there from both of them. Harrison Edwards against Bronson Garlick. Josh King up against the redhead Griffith Neame. Sean Bloor against John Bateman. Elisa Katoa had a blinder last week down there in Melbourne. And Kai O'Donnell, Sam McIntyre up against Big Nelson, gets the start off the front. Asafa Solomona. So let's go across here. There's a few interchanges. We don't need to, the usual suspects. So let's get to the core of the matter and find out the value here. Head to head, it's too skinny. Melbourne at $1.34, even though it's up there. And North Queensland, $3.30. Running third, Melbourne, of course, only a few points off the top spot of Canberra. Running 12th with their season in the balance, whether they're going to make the 8 or not. Could be a real battle through Origin for them. But at least this is the last Origin they need to worry about. And same with Melbourne. You could say it both ways, but I think Melbourne's probably got a slightly better bench. And Dearden's going to be sadly missing out there, as well as Munster, but in particularly for North Queensland to lead them around the field. That I think they're going to battle in this one. So we're tipping Melbourne by 1 to 12 and 13 plus. But my first feature, in case North Queensland stand up and get counted, is to have 1 to 12, then 13 plus. Can't see an upset happening. I really can't. Even though last time there was only, what was it, 13, 24 points in it by the looks of it. It was 38 to 14. So I think it'll be similar to that, but it may be a little bit closer. Depends also, check the weather. Always check the weather. Half your bets if it's wet, because there's never as many tries scored. And if it's a real tight match like tonight, you don't honestly think, unless they're both free-flowing sides, these mad battles of attrition where there's only like 6 points scored in the first half and 12 points scored in the second half, they're no good to any time try scorer punters like us here at every point. But let's go straight to the value here. It's $1.75. Long odds on Ryan Pappenhausen. He hasn't gone over for such a long time. You would imagine he'd go over, so we might leave him for the 5th or 6th position. But looking at all the different try scorers here, at least Katoa is really good value again. Let's chuck him in as our banker. Sam Hughes got our money again last week. Chuck him in as the second banker. Though this time we're putting Scott Drinkwater as our third leg, not our banker, our third leg. It'd be remiss of me to leave out one of my favourite players, Jackson, and up-and-coming players, Jackson Purdue. I want to chuck in, now this could be a reserve, it depends on whether he gets the run. I want to chuck in Jackson Paulu in case there's a late change, because it's quite a way away from the game. So I'm going to chuck in Paulu as the 4th leg, but you can sub him. If he doesn't get the run, sub him with the 2 legs I give you for 5th. So we're going to have Robert Darby to finally go over. Robert Darby as the 5th leg, and as your emergency, I say we have to have, because he's not odds on, Tyron Wishart at 220. And if you're that desperate to have a seventh leg and you got money from the first couple of games, chuck in Pappenhausen, because at least he might give you a three-legger. If you've already got your two standouts get up, that Pappenhausen might boost up your income off the three legs. Remember, most of these three legs, I don't have them for more than $2.50, and I usually $1.50 unit for my normal doubles. And those doubles, I usually go for about the shortest double we usually get here at EPAW is about 6 to 7 to 1. Those ones I do have to have for $3 to get something back. I try and aim for at least $20 with the doubles. So if you get your two bankers to score, straight away you got doubles all over the place. With your second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth selection, they only have to go over and you're picking up double here, double there, double here. And then if you've got a few three-leggers like we always have for $1.50 or $1, you've also got them running as well. And that's where you have a really good collect. All right, guys, that's it for that game. As I said, Purdue is in there, but Jackson Polo we're having, but he will be subbed out with Derby if he doesn't get the run, because he's only been mentioned on the bench at this stage and as a reserve. So, but stranger things can happen. If I was Peyton, I'd bring Polo into the game because he works really good when other teams are short on players. So that's my summation anyway of that game. The second last match we're going over, or the penultimate, is Sydney Roosters versus West Tigers. And head-to-head, Sydney Roosters are the shortest price going around since Bernborough was going for 5 or 6 straight after winning the Newmarket. So $1.28 there for Sydney Roosters, $3.70 for the Tigers. We will click on that, but I want to go back and have a look at the ins and outs. There's a couple of good inclusions for West Tigers, but after tipping them last week, I couldn't change my bets with the tipping competition I'm in, the Monster Cup, with Scotty and Pete. And I wanted to change, of course, because they lost Luai before the match. And they had no one guiding them around the park. They tried hard, West Tigers, but trying hard isn't good enough in this competition. You have to win. In any case, this is a big game for them, and I can't see the Roosters losing here. We're going to start off with the Roosters at 13 plus over the Tigers, and then as a secondary selection here, 1 to 12, the Roosters. Can't see Roosters laying down, even if they have one of their worst matches. I can't see Tigers doing it. We're just giving them too many chances, and it is at Allianz Stadium, where Roosters are extremely hard to beat. They're nearly they're impenetrable there, honestly. Team lists, just having a look. Star Patel let us down last week. He's up against Nwanga Nitawazi, and so that's a really good matchup. Lalili is in. Charlie Staines. Tarubi's moved to fullback. That's interesting. Adam Dewey had a pretty good match last week. Terrell May, he's having one of those, because he probably didn't get picked in the rep sides. I think he's gone off colour a bit too. He started out phenomenally in this competition, but he's sort of lost a bit of form over the last 4 or 5 games. And just looking at the bench there, they seem to have a fairly strong bench, both of them, in fact. Brenton Aiden there and Lalili, or Kit Lalili for West Tigers. All right, let's go over to the market and see if we can pick out our any time trial scorers before we nearly wrap it up. We've only got one game to cruise over, and they'll be thinking about the big game tonight. Don't miss it, whatever you do. So let's go to the TAB and click on there. For any time try scorer. Last time they played, it was Sydney Roosters 40, West Tigers 6. That was round 17 of last year. Yeah, Tigers were holding on to the wooden spoon nearly at that stage with Parramatta. And now they're still in dire straits for the same horrible happenings. The try scorers here, It looks like Daniel Tupou is hot favourite at $1.65. Tom Rodwell, $1.70. Nwanga Nitawazi's 2-1. James Tedesco, 2.10. Pretty good value there, James. We might even lead out with him. Let's have a look here. Billy Smith, 250. Yeah, okay. That's just jumping out at me, hitting me in the face. We're going to have two bankers, but I've already picked out our third leg. And we've got to stuck in Stafford Tile for the fourth leg because he has been so good to us. He let us down one week. And that was a tough game at Four Pines Park, for goodness sake. We're going back there again. And how many games has Manly got at Four Pines Park or the old Brookvale Oval? Seems like they play there every freaking week. Anyway, let's have a look here. I'm standing out here without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to stand out Billy Smith as the banker, Billy Smith, and at the value there, James Tedesco. James Tedesco and Billy Smith as our main bankers. Our third leg, we're having Charlie Staines because he's good value there, back on the wing at 250. That's the best odds you'll get for a long time. Gerald Skelton will be our fifth leg, 260, but we are chucking Stafford Tower. He's a very important leg. I'd nearly be, if you're talking about legs, if you bend my arm or bend my leg, I'd nearly put in Stafford Tower for third. So he's going to get a lot of favouritism as far as I'm concerned. He's done so well for us this year, Stafford Tower, and I'm expecting a little bit of a bounce back for him. You're going to have any of the Fainu brothers. They've got some really strong players there, West, but I cannot see them beating Roosters. So we're leaving it at that. And best of luck with that game, guys. We'll be cashing in, I'm sure. I'm really confident about that one. And if there was a CR rating on it, I'd have it as 88. Okay, let's have a look here in the last game, Manly versus South. South's a 310. Although they got us a couple of really good doubles with Tallis Duncan last week. Manly are very hard to beat at 4 Pines Park. They get all the decisions. They get the flow of the game. One of them's running ninth, so they're still in a race for the 8, and the other one's 16th. It doesn't seem as though South are going to make it this year. And looking at the wins and losses, it's not that one. It's only one more win there for Manly, and 6 wins to South. It's all mixed up with the buys. The buys are really thrown the ladder out of whack. But can you believe the last time they met in round 16 in 2024, South towered them up, but it was at a core stadium. That's the difference, folks. 14-0. Wow. It was probably when Travojevic brothers weren't playing. Nice little drop of Nescafe. Or as Mr. Stochevsky says, Nescoffee. Okay, second try scorer here. Let's have a look. Oh, that's the wrong. Okay, so looking at the try scorers here, Jason Saab at $1.65. Skinny as hell. He went in last week. Tolito Kola went in as well, 220. Alex Johnson is back to fullback. That's interesting. 260. He didn't score last match. He's only about 6 tries away from equaling or breaking the record of the legend himself. Tallis Duncan, very good value there at 4-1. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be an easy game for South, but there is a big rivalry between these two and a lot of hatred. They've had some great Barneys in the past, and shame that they can't do that anymore, because I reckon there'd be a few punches thrown in this match. But anyway, we're all prim and proper these days. Jack Whiten, although we had him in a 3-leg, we didn't have him as a sole standout last week. He may be good value there at 375. Ben Travojevic got us one of our doubles up at 350. He always scores he never scores in the first half, Ben Travojevic. It's always in the 70th minute, and he gives you coronaries before before going over, like some 72nd minute. It's always 70th minute, 77th minute. But anyway, getting back to the value here, I think I'm going to lead out with Lehigh Hapawadi here at 220. There's no Mitchell to do any cover defence there, and I think he's going to go. I'm just got a feeling he's going to go over, and hopefully his ball handling is a bit better this week. He hasn't scored for 3 matches, but we're taking a bit of a punt there. So Lehigh Hapawadi as our banker. Now, the last time we had him as a banker, he knocked himself out after scoring, and the try was disallowed because as he knocked himself out, he lost the ball. Tyron Munro is our second leg there. Tyron Munro for South, and I think he's going to score a freakish try for South. So Lehigh Upperwaddy is banker 1, banker 2, Tyrone Munro. Then we're going to check in Tom Trbojevic. He hasn't scored for so long as our third leg. As our fourth leg, Tolotau Kola. He's been so good to us. And it'd be remiss of me to leave out Tallis Duncan at 4-1 there as our fifth leg. So we're tipping Manly at 13 plus and 1-12 there at Brookie or Four Pines Park. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it. Don't forget, we'll be doing. I'm going to try and knock up a few promotions for the State of Origin call, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Scotty Pearce McLeod will be calling basically when Queensland have the ball, and I'll be representing New South Wales as the broadcaster here live in the studio. We depends what time we can come up from the South Coast. We might do a good preview of the match and a bit of a discussion before the big preamble and the kickoff. And this is the game that's going to also sort him, myself, and Peter out, because there's only 3 lengths separating, well, 3 points separating us in the tipping competition. It's been such a tough year for tipping. So anyway, so thanks for joining us. May all our bankers get up. If our bankers get up, and especially if they both score in the first half, like Katoa and Hughes did recently, it's an easier 40 minutes because then you've only got to get a few other of your legs, your second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth legs to go over, and you got money in the bank. So best of punting, gamble responsibly, be nice to your mother always, and your puppy dogs. Your puppy dogs here, okay? Benji. There was a dog last night at Wentworth Park called Ritza Benji. I think it paid about $28 for a win. Trust me, I have backed it before, but haven't been playing the dogs for some time. But it was great to see Benji back in the winner's circle. All right, until next time we meet, and we'll probably have a preview, as I said, but before the match, leading into to the State of Origin. We can't wait for Wednesday. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Axel Phillips. Bye for now.